Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Thronebreaker, and last time we took on several puzzles in this northeastern area of Edirn. We are getting pretty close to the end here. We have a few more points of interest here in this town, but I was thinking before we do that, it might be time to check out this point of interest over here. Might even be a road leading to some kind of fortification there, even though there's not currently any marker there. And so we can check that out, hopefully. And if there is nothing there, then maybe we'll head down here to this previous encounter that we tried as well. But, we shall see. We shall see. So let's get on the road here. That is a fast travel spot. We picked that up. This is some kind of point of interest here. Is this the one that we were expecting? It is. Okay, looks like some kind of locked passageway here with some Nilfgaardians, mind you. That is definitely Nilfgaardian armor, Nilfgaardian colors, and I don't know what the deal is here. That seems like some kind of noble, although the colors look like they might even be Edirnian. So, some Edirnians siding with the Nilfgaardians? What's happening here? What is the deal? Obviously, we're on low morale, so it's gonna potentially make things a little bit more difficult for us, but we'll see what the deal is.
Meve's Lyrians were traversing a wood when they heard the loud, drawn-out blast of a horn.
One of our scouts?
The Queen asked, clearly perplexed. She turned in her saddle to face Reynard, who shook his head.
Strange. Gascon, appoint a few of your strays. Ones who know how to blend in. Have them sniff out who blows that horn. And why.
Okay.
The scouts returned a short while later with their report. Soldiers had pitched camp in a nearby meadow. They wore Edirnian uniforms, cut by sashes bearing a golden sun. They addressed their leader as Fulberson.
Know the name,
Rayla said.
Fulberson went over to the enemy first day of the war, took his whole division with him. Your Grace, a chance like this won't come again. Let's teach the traitors a lesson.
Okay, and you can see it here, in fact, in the image. That's the Edirnian sigil right there, coat of arms, and then that's the Nilfgaard logo right there, the Great Sun. So quite literally just threw a Nilfgaard sash on over their Edirnian armor. So yep, they are definitely traitors, black sashes indeed. We can either order a retreat and get out of here, or, I mean, we gotta see what this is all about, right? We're on low morale, it'll be a little bit tougher for that reason, but we'll see.
We must send a strong signal. One all the North will hear. From the Yaruga to the Dragon Mountains,
Announced the Queen.
whoever collaborates with the invader shall pay with his head. Prepare to attack.
Rayla nodded, clearly pleased. The Lyrians surrounded the meadow marked by their scouts. Moments later, a flaming arrow pierced the sky, giving the signal to attack.
Okay, so the previous Nilfgaardian encounters outside of Vrigith were generally on the easier side. Vrigith, a little bit of a different story, but we'll see how we fare here. Will these guys play like Nilfgaardians or more like Edirnians? Let's see. So, Edirnian traders. Thalbison was not the sole trader in the north. Many of the land's wealthiest allied with the Empire, bribed by the promise of riches and privilege, and sometimes under duress. They had struggled to discern whether the kings themselves were striking deals with the invaders, Henselt of Kedwin, Boltest of Temeria, and it did appear, after all, that the longer the war dragged on, the less resistance Nilfgaard seemed to encounter, as if they had paid up, bribed a few people perhaps, to reduce the retreat timer to 0. Special rules, yeah, that is not something we've ever seen before. It's a shortened battle, just one round. So does that mean we're trying to force our opponents into retreating, not necessarily just outscoring them? Let's start this thing up and see if we can figure out what exactly this means. So yep, just one round. And before we start choosing our cards, retreat. Reduce this artifact's timer by 1 for every unit played from the opponent's hand. Oh, as in us, because this is their card. So every time we play a card, the retreat counter goes down. Count Thalbison escapes and Meve wins the battle. Okay, I mean, so it sounds like no matter what, Count Thalbison is kind of getting away. But, so what is the... Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so are you going to have things that prevent us from playing cards? we need to play units, which actually means, interestingly enough, that our trinkets may actually be a bad thing here. So, by some accounts, you could make the case for getting rid of those. Rayla plus Xavier is amazing if we're just trying to play as many cards as many units as possible in particular. So I love that. Knickers makes me a little bit nervous because Knickers can consume a card from our hand, and in doing so means we might play fewer cards and therefore play fewer units and therefore not do quite as well in this encounter. Knickers does get summoned out from our deck whenever we play a gold card, so even if we put Knickers back into our deck, he's still going to get summoned to the board eventually. So, I don't know. In some ways, you can make the case keeping him in hand and then just deliberately playing him at or near the end so he doesn't ever use his ability might be the best way to go about doing it. I think we do get rid of at least Alzur's Thunder. I mean, again, don't really know what to expect. We'll get rid of the trinkets because it seems like we want to be going all units here. Maybe this alone is going to be enough, but I feel like there has to be at least one catch. Hold on. Can we learn anything else? Falbison, every turn on turn start, spawn Falbison's Guard. We have no idea what that card does, so still hard to know how to prepare. I think we do keep Knickers and just deliberately not play him. Again, just trying to maximize the number of units that we play, assuming that they're going to do something to make it harder for us to do that, but I don't know what exactly.
Is that Queen Meve? To arms!
Scrubbing duty again? Oh, God.
So at least initially, it looks like your typical Nilfgaard deck with the Recruit. After 2 allies appear, boost self by 6 and gain resilience. We don't care about points. We don't care about resilience because this is only 1 round. We just care about getting as many units on the board as we can. For 2 turns on turn start, increase. Oh, okay. Okay. So we really want to get rid of you. And I believe we can do that immediately if we go the Stray Slinger, deal a little bit of damage to you, and then follow that up with a leader ability charge, right? This is 4. Gets you down to just 1. And we could play it a little bit riskier and go leader ability and then play Stray's Bomber, set this row on fire, and just hope that it hits you. I mean, technically we do not need to take you out immediately, although if we get too clever, then you might get boosted by one of their other cards. Oh, we could also go Stray's Cavalry. Might be... but that also damages them at the end of their turn, right? Every turn on our turn start. Our turn start, end of their turn. So, point is, the leader ability plus Slinger can immediately get rid of you, whereas Cavalry or Bomber can potentially, but only after, in this case, only after they've taken a turn, which gives them a little bit of time to boost this up, or Stray's Bomber, depending on if it procs with the damage, may or may not. So, I think we played safe.
Bigger they are, easier they are to take.
Okay, that reduces it by 1 because we played a unit. Then we do this to take you out. That should drop it down to 7. Not only dropping it down, but also making one of their ways to get more of those cards out there. Or rather, one of their ways to increase the timer. Less likely to actually trigger. So the problem is we actually did not have a lot of damage in our hand. Does make matters a little more complicated. This is the lowest card right now, actually. Ooh. How did they get this one? Are you doing this every turn? On turn start? Yeah, wow. Okay, so this is really frequent. You just boost self. I mean, if you're only going to play more recruits, then Stray's Cavalry damage on the Falbison's Guard plus Scepter of Storms would be sufficient. Maybe we try that. Maybe we try that. I mean, it's good to play this early because the damage does, of course, proc every turn. So the earlier you do it, the more turns the damage procs, more damage total. Same thing with the Strays Bomber, it's just that the Strays Bomber is not a sure thing. So as good as this would be, it does mean taking a risk at some point. But once again, earlier the better. Do you bite the bullet and just go for it? Technically speaking, I think we do need to get rid of you. Do this. Drops you down to a 1. Really hoping this doesn't get boosted.
Must be an important lesson in this.
Okay, that's not going to boost this card. That's fine.
This
Gonna drop you down to a
has
4.
suffered much.
Okay, so I think the early Babelson Guard destructions were key because that was going to be the best way for them to get out ahead of us. But the more of these we shut down, the more it becomes a matter of just eventually we can keep pace with them, just play the units directly from our hand and potentially be fine. So we might go for another cavalry here on you. It's still gonna be a while till we get our leader ability back. This what increases it by 1. Okay, so I'm thinking you'll get damaged by 1, then we'll use Scepter of Storms, which will be 4 damage. Should be just enough to take you out. That might be all we need, as long as it doesn't get boosted. You have damage? No, you boost adjacent units. Good thing that you played this here next to units that we don't care about getting boosted. So now we do this. Take you out. Drops you down to 1, which means we play a card here, and it shouldn't matter what it is. Rayla would have been the best way to get a bunch of cards down here early, her plus Xavier. But I don't think it's going to be necessary, because playing her alone will force him to surrender. So there you have it. Turns out, not so bad.
The traitors, perhaps used to fighting unsuspecting foes, stood no chance against the determined Lyrian attack. At its conclusion, Meve personally knocked Fulberson off his mount, then tore off his visor. The face she saw evoked more sympathy than hatred. Fulberson was an old, sickly man, his skin pale and blemished. With great difficulty, he pulled himself up on his knees, then extended a shaky hand in pleading.
Oh, now he's going to try to negotiate with us?
Your Grace, have mercy. The Nilfgaardians forced me to treason. They threatened torture.
Meve felt her soldiers' eyes on her.
Oh.
They awaited her decision. How would she treat this traitor? Would she really execute him as a warning to others?
Ooh. Ooh. So here's the thing. And the framing there is interesting. Obviously, soldiers are watching, just to make it very clear that, hey, people are going to notice whatever decision you make here. I think that went without saying. But this part here, a little more surprising. I mean, my initial thought was, okay, you know, if you take him out, then you send the message, treason will not be tolerated by any means. You know, we will take out any traitors of any sorts, and you know, basically zero tolerance policy, which for an act as heinous as treason, you could make the case makes sense. And anything short of that, you could make the case sends a very mixed message of, hey, here's this guy who just committed one of the worst possible crimes, and yet we're letting him get off scot-free because we, for some reason, felt like him being an old man was enough of a reason for him not to get punished. Like, his reasoning is, well, I mean, I guess we're trying to trust it. We need to trust him that he was threatened, the Nilfgaardians threatened torture, and that was reason enough for him to commit the acts that he did. But the fact that they say, would you really execute him as a warning to others, makes that framing makes it sound like we are feeling like whole Meve's soldiers might potentially become traitors and join the Nilfgaardians and, you know, try to take her out or something like that. Like that, I don't think we've really seen any signs of that. So I'm less concerned about, well, I mean, I guess that's sort of just an extension of the whole sending the message of treason will not be tolerated. So, I mean, it's definitely harsh. Think, if we do this, if we're thinking about metagaming a little bit here, but if we're thinking about the potential consequences, I imagine hanging him might reduce our morale, which was low, but probably was about to get reset back to neutral after completing this encounter, so would just remain on low if we were to go this route. But, I mean, what would be the plus side of it? I don't even know. I'm not sure. So my initial reaction was like, I mean, surely we need to take this guy out after he betrayed us, but betrayed Eddern, technically, but by extension, the North. And then, I mean, personally, just not really all that swayed by his argument here. I mean, like, yeah, they're... Sure. Like, of course they're going to threaten to torture you, but that's your job as a soldier, is to defend the country that you are tasked to defend. And you did exactly the opposite. So, I mean, we just take him out. I think we just take him out. I'm unconvinced. This is not a strong enough argument. I don't know what would have been a strong enough argument. You would have had to have had an amazing case. And, I mean, the initial framing definitely made me feel from the get-go as if there's little to no chance of us sparing him. I did not think we were going to be able to spare him, but just because he's an old man, no way is that reason enough. The threat of torture, okay, yeah, maybe a little more possibility, but still, I don't think that's reason enough.
You needn't fear torture anymore,
said Meve.
Your execution shall be quick.
Fulberson made a last grasp at the Queen's foot, pleading
Really
for mercy,
high morale.
but she brushed him off with a firm gesture. Soon thereafter, he swung from a tree, hanged by the very black sash he draped over his armor.
Okay, well, I mean, obviously, it's one more step toward Dictator Lid / Dictator Meve, but I'm surprised. I guess it's a good sign of our soldiers that they support us supporting the North, and I mean, it at least sends the message that it's not like everyone was pondering, everyone was already scheming to betray Meve and stab her in the back, and so, you know, us punishing a traitor made them nervous and therefore lowered their morale because they thought, oh, that could be me next. But if that's not a concern to them at all, because they weren't thinking about it at all, then they might think, oh, okay, Meve is serious about us taking out the Nilfgaardians. And so it's actually, I mean, it's a little weird that would make you, you know, more motivated. You know, maybe guys just remain neutral after that. It's still, you know, it's still pretty extreme. But, I mean, perhaps that was the preferable outcome in that case. We at least increased our morale. Might there be... Oh. There he is. There he is. Would we have potentially gotten something better if we'd gone the other route, and maybe it would have just come at a significant cost of some other sort? Maybe? But there is still this area further to the east here, which I'm quite intrigued about. We don't know of anything there right now, except that it seems to be quite large, and I would have thought significant. Still smoke coming out of the chimneys, although no signs of people at the moment, so I really don't know what to make of that. Huh. No apparent way in either. I do wonder if maybe something else we discover elsewhere might... Oh, loot. You know, might we find a key somewhere somehow? Not sure about that. That's a little odd. It is a little odd. Oh, almost missed this. And that gets us... We're not at 3,000 yet. I'm not sure there is anything that we're looking for at 3,000. As I was saying, increasing our maximum number of trinkets was the thing that was coming to mind as what we might want to do next, and we already have enough for that. Oh. This was the bridge we were thinking about taking back to do this encounter, but unless our soldiers are about to rebuild this bridge, I mean, we do have an engineer, for what it's worth, on our team right now, Xavier, but still. This probably is not what we were looking for.
A taxidermied unicorn. Strange. What are your orders, Your Grace? Shall we take it?
I've no notion what one could possibly do with such a thing. We ride on.
Wait a second. Hold on. Wait, that's a reference. That's not a coincidence, that's a reference. Okay. I'm on to you, game. I'm on to you, game. I see you. I see you. You're not fooling me. At first I thought, isn't the unicorn on the Kedweni coat of arms? Maybe it has something to do with Kedwen? No. No, it's something different. It's something different. Okay, but it does mean that, as I was just saying, unfortunately, our preferred way to get back to this point of interest is now blocked, and so perhaps, for that reason, it may be worth us fast traveling from here over to this spot and walking our way over to this encounter where we came across, I believe it was a bunch of Neckers. It was monsters, a bunch of Neckers and Rot Fiends, and we just needed to have enough damage to take out, we needed to outscore them, I think. It was just a straightforward one in that sense, but they flooded their rows with tons of Neckers, and it made it a little bit tricky for us. If we had enough damage, we might have been able to pull it off. But that was a while ago when we last tried it. I have not looked at exactly how that went down recently to remind myself, but just based off memory, that's what I recall. So I think maybe we do. Maybe we do give it a shot here. And perhaps we may want to revise our deck in anticipation of that. So let's see, is this bridge intact? Or is that one broken? I don't remember. Can we actually go that way? In theory, if we can, it would be a little bit faster. We cannot. It is broken. Okay, I did not make that up. I did not make that up. Thought I recalled that being the case. So that means we gotta go the southern route. No worries. A little bit longer walk, but we'll be fine. So what I was thinking was, and we could potentially, guys are still there. In anticipation, we could potentially make some other modifications, switch around, mostly just our trinket, to give us more damage. Although, our non-damaging trinket is Martyr and Bear, which we're just trying to outscore our opponent. Not necessarily a bad one. That would actually, might have been a better route for us to have taken, that fast travel spot, but either way, I think we're close here now. I think it's, yep, just up here. So, deck may still be just about as good as it can get for this one. We have, of course, recently added several cards, though. Would any of them make sense? Still don't know what the Jade figurine really is. That one's a little bit hard to know definitively. The skull, I thought I remembered that they had at least a little bit of damage. Potentially damage that does start to add up quite a bit over time. So they might start to destroy a lot of our units, but is that a 3-round match, or is it just a 1-round match? That's another thing, is if it's just 1 round, then our opponent probably needs to destroy our units in order for this to get set up. If it's a 3-round match, then we can play a bunch of things in round 1, have a really big graveyard, and then banish them all in round 2 or round 3, and that sets up Skull for a really big hit. Since they do flood rows with a lot of units, that actually is really tempting. Ooh. I think Elser's Thunder will also be great as well. I think maybe we get rid of Martyr and Bear. I think it's still not a bad option. But Skull, assuming it is 3 rounds, could be amazing. Could be fantastic. But I don't remember if that's the case or not, so we're gonna see. If it is just 1 round, then it's definitely less than ideal. But we're gonna try it. Oh, and it was the one where the Nilfgaardians are getting attacked. Ah. Yes. Okay, so we've heard this
who rode beside a
explanation a
screaming
bunch of
cave-
times because we tried this a bunch of times, so I'm going to skip through it here. But we're going to save the Nilfgaardians.
Meve was uncertain at first how to act. But when she saw...
Okay, the big question is this... Ah, it's just one round. Okay, so it's still possible to make the skull work, but it does mean they're going to need to pack enough damage to actually destroy some of our cards so that we have some units in our graveyard and therefore have some power on skull. But with at least a little bit of setup, I think it could be amazing. Okay. If it doesn't work out so well for us, then of course it's an obvious card to swap out. We can put in a different keepsake in its place. So we just... hold on. Do we just need to outscore them, or do we need to destroy everything? I might have skipped through it a little bit too quickly, but I think we just need to destroy it. Alright, rather, I think we just need to outpoint them here. Oh, we do have high morale as well, which might have been worth going to the Brigith encounter for that reason, so that we had a little bit of an extra advantage in that, but we have enough shrines remaining at this point that I think we'll be fine. If we need the morale for that, then we'll have a way to get it. Knickers, we probably do want to keep you in deck. I do really like Isbel, because if they are doing a lot of damage, then she's an awesome answer for that. Reynard can reset Xavier. Xavier can reset Isbel, but as we have recently discovered, Isbel... I mean, yes, you can use her ability once and boost a bunch of people, but you need to get damage again, because the amount that her boost is valued at resets whenever you use it, so that means you can't just use Isbel's boost, reset her order, immediately use another Isbel boost, and rinse repeat, because then the subsequent Isbel boosts are worth 0. So, it makes me a little nervous. It's great if we could get Rayla, however, as another order user, although we do not yet have her. If we are to try to get rid of something, what would it be? Honestly, it might be Reynard, because Reynard or Xavier, as great as they are setup cards for other big finishers, and we just don't have those right now, other than potentially Isbel, but that is a big question mark. So I think we don't want to go all in. We don't want to bet entirely on that. We really want Rayla here. We really want Rayla. We really want Rayla. We have gotten Rayla. Ooh, that was close. Okay, so remind me what the deal is with these footmen. On round start, appear in the battlefield after 4 turns. On turn start, duel the lowest enemy. Okay, so that means they'll trade damage with the lowest enemy. I vaguely recall that it's coming back a little bit. Our opponents last time round tried to damage these guys pretty aggressively, which prevented us from getting much value out of this duel. It would otherwise be kind of difficult. Turn start, summon a Necker from your deck, or boost self by 1 of this row is full. So I think that's what we did way back at the beginning of Eddard, was with the basic Neckers, we just watched them fill an entire row and then eventually meant they couldn't get any more value from summoning out additional Neckers. This hulking Necker, I think this might be the first time that we've seen it, and it covers for the basic Necker's weakness, where once the row gets full, they start boosting all the other Neckers. So that is why, I think the primary reason why this encounter is more difficult. So, on one hand, we can use the leader ability charge to get rid of both of these Neckers immediately, and I imagine they're going to play more from their hand, and so it's not going to completely shut off this combo, but it might significantly slow it down. The other tempting thing, though, would be to try to get rid of these Grave Hags as quickly as possible, because they will become quite big over time. Could potentially make going with Becker's Dark Mirror worth substituting in for Skull, but I might have tried that in the past, because I'm pretty sure we had it when we were last doing this encounter. So, anyway, getting a little ahead of myself here, because that's just our leader ability and the timing around that, but we, of course, have to play a unit, or play a card of some variety. This would be enough to get rid of the Grave Hag. Then the 5 damage, what? Gets you down to a 5, which means leader ability is not quite enough. We have a little bit of time, though, in that case, before you're going to actually trigger this. We could also do this. Tell you what, I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here. I'm going to mark one of the Grave Hags. Leave this one. And then on our next turn, we're going to... On our next turn, we're going to go Alzur's Thunder and hit this one, damage you. You'll be down to a 4 at that point. We're going to deliberately save our leader ability because then we can destroy all these guys with that targeting of a 4. And if they summon more hulking neckers, then we'll take all those out as well. So it's definitely a risk. Definitely a risk. Fine with... Oh, these ones, unfortunately, have a little more power. So those ones won't go down.
Why do you help us?
But now, the reason why I targeted this one was because I was assuming this next card they played in this row was going to go on this side. So that way, the Alzur's Thunder would damage multiple cards. But no, they played it to the left, which was a surprise. But anyways, the plan is, you go for this. And now they have... Oh, I get Snickers out, right? Because that's a gold card. Now they have 3 cards on 4 power, which gives us a nice way to use our leader ability. We did delay it 1 turn deliberately, but that does mean it might turn into us getting 1 less round of leader ability before the end of the encounter. But we got rid of what might have been their most threatening cards, so I do like that. They're going to continue to flood with more of those Neckers. And I mean, those will eventually become good targets for our leader ability. Oh, it's another Grave Hag. It is another Grave Hag, so I'm afraid we're not done with those. We are not done with those yet. These footmen are about to duel the lowest enemy units. Does that affect what we want to do here? At the moment, that would mean going after hulking Neckers, which would, I think, destroy... Yeah, it would almost certainly destroy them. So that's not going to work so well for us. We could consider using Scepter of Storms here. Might not be the worst idea. Would get rid of... How much damage would it be at this point? It's 6 damage. With their armor, they would still survive, but that does mean now the footmen suddenly do have a target that they can actually go after. So that's maybe not the worst thing. Also, if they get damage, that technically powers up Isbel. No units in there yet. We also kind of want them to get destroyed to power up Skull. I think we might go Stray's Cavalry, though. And... question is, who are we going after?
We'll catch them all!
Do we try to deal enough damage to you? Because I do like how many of these hulking Neckers are on the same amount of power. It does potentially make for really good leader ability, except we're talking about waiting 4 turns before our next leader ability charge. And so there's going to be plenty of time for this guy to get dropped down from the mark and other things to happen that we cannot yet anticipate or remember from last time. Yes, I mean, there's 5 armor as well. Means that's just going to eat up much of our damage. I think we may still want to go and possibly even double mark you to just totally load up on the damage there. This row is going to get very full very, very quickly, though. More Grave Hags. I remember at some point in time that we should expect... So there was the dueling.
Eat 'em, I say.
Silence! The Queen has made her decision.
There's the dueling. It was enough to get rid of one of the hulking Neckers, and we did lose one of the footmen, which is actually, again, not a terrible thing, because that does mean that now we took a little bit of damage, actually a fair bit of damage, power up Isbel, and we now have a very weak Skull. Hopefully it'll have a little bit more time to get more powerful still, but now it may be worth getting Rayla down and going with Xavier. Obviously, once we did get Rayla, it did become worth it for us to have both Xavier and for us to have Reynard as well, but we just didn't want to go all in on that strategy and have no guarantee that we're going to get Rayla at all, because if we didn't have her, then it was going to totally fall apart. But what we can do here is we can play her. So we want to have time to use her order ability, and potentially you get more cavalry down here or slingers. This melee row is almost certainly going to fill. It is definitely going to fill. We can use Scepter of Storms, and at the moment that would get rid of you. It's probably worth doing. That is the one downside of going with Rayla there, was that she was not going to give us any immediate damage. Maybe with that destruction, we still feel a little bit better about it. I mean, it's still going to be, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 additional Neckers, and that's more than enough to fill this row, assuming that most of the cards in their deck are also Neckers. Although, yeah, this one's going to fill. And then 1, 2, 3. I think they're going to get both rows perfectly filled. Will they get jammed? They might get jammed then, which would prevent them from playing additional cards, which, on one hand, is good, because what are they going to do with all these? They might have a way to deal with that. I don't remember from last time. I have the vaguest memories that they might, but it does, of course, mean that all these Necker abilities will trigger, and they'll get a whole lot of boosts out of that. So that's not good. That aspect is not good. So, might not have been the right decision to go with Rayla there. Oh, what? Do they not have any more hulking Neckers in their deck? Are they out of them? Ooh, if so, then that becomes interesting. Consume the highest unit from your graveyard and set your charge amount by its power. So you can do this potentially a bazillion times. They have Nilfgaardians in their graveyard. I did not remember that. Highest unit, though, would be right now a 4. And then you'd get 4 charges, so you can do that a bunch. Oh, and damage an enemy unit by 1. Okay, so that's where some of the damage was coming from previously. Alright, so what we can do, we can use Rayla to get some additional... We could use Rayla to get Reynard down here, actually, and repeat the process a bit, although we'd want to get other stuff down here first. Namely, we'd want to get Xavier down here first. Tell you what, I think what we do with this Rayla is we definitely want a Stray's Bomber to set a row on fire, because that damage can add up to be very significant, given how full these rows are. The question is, do we prioritize putting the fire on this row or this row? There's tons of armor on this row. These 5 armor Grave Hags and Grave Hags. Whereas these ones, some of them are armorless, whereas the others just have 2. I think we might... We're probably going to get another Stray's Bomber with a subsequent round of Rayla, so maybe we don't need to worry about this too much. Let's go here. Guess we'll start with this, because I don't think we're going to be taking those Grave Hags out before they can use their abilities. So might as well just see if we can get rid of all these guys. Also, we have not actually technically played a card, and, well, that means we can use Xavier.
Fear not.
And he has Zeal. So we can do this, give Rayla another charge, and use that to get another Bomber. And so that's why I was saying, don't worry too much about it. We can set both rows on fire. That's a really big deal. And now we can use Xavier again to give Rayla another charge. And in this instance, use that to get Reynard, which we could have waited until we got Isabel down, but as we said previously, generally speaking, getting Isabel to use her order ability multiple times does not give us that much benefit. So I think we just go straight into Reynard here, and let us do this.
Forward march!
And that gives us more charges. And this time, We can go slingers for movement, or it might even make sense to just go all in on the cavalry, since it's still relatively early in the round. We have 5 cards left. Well, that's what, 5 damage total versus 6 in total from a slinger, and the slingers also do power up Gascon, who we have in hand. I think that means it is probably worth going with the slinger, to tell you the truth. Just have to be a little bit careful about not accidentally filling a row. So, if we're swapping one card out, let's try to keep the rows at roughly the same amount of units. And then we use Rayla again, and play another slinger. And I think we just want to try to get rid of stuff, so we technically might have wanted to go after that Necker. And then... I do like these being on the same amount of power, but the fire is going to make leveling out damage very unpredictable. So I'm not sure we can really rely on that. Yes, yeah, we'll wait on this since it's not going to take anything out right now anyway. So those guys are going to get really big. Go after Raider of all things. These are the cards we really want to destroy, these Rot Fiends. I remember them, because they will damage all their units in the row if they go down. So that's the ideal target. Thing is, we have used, well, a lot, but not all of our damage. Also, the Alchemist could be a creative way to reduce some cards' power. If these Grave Hags get huge, then we can set it to the same amount of power as the Ghoul, and then suddenly they're much weaker. So that might be a little ace up our sleeve. In which case, I mean, technically it doesn't matter when we play Gascon, so we might go for him now. We still only have 1 unit in our graveyard, and that makes Skull very weak, so again, does look like that might be the obvious thing to switch out, but let's see if we can still make it work even with that. With, I mean, yeah, I guess Gascon does work.
Coin never stinks, no matter how rank the pouch.
And now, let's go... Scepter Storms would destroy you, and then it would damage either you or you. We don't want a row to get full, because then the Necker boosts start coming in and becoming a factor. I think we can go with that. Okay. Got rid of another one of the Neckers. Assume the top unit. Oh, I did not remember that. We have a little bit of fire damage on that Rot Fiend, which does drop it down to a 6. There are a ton of 6s. That is definitely going to be the target of our next leader ability, which is active now. So, anything we want to do before that? We have a slinger. Can we get other stuff down to 6 with this slinger? If there's anything that's currently on 8, then yes. Otherwise, no. And I'm not seeing anything that is currently on an 8. Skull? No, I don't think so. So, I think we might actually go with Isbel here. We might not use her order ability just yet. It's up to 30. It's not bad. It's not bad. But, I mean, she's a little bit vulnerable at 4 power. She would be potentially the target for a self-alchemist, where we probably want to put her next to Gascon and use Gascon's power to boost Isbel. That would mean putting Isbel on the right side of Gascon. So maybe we go for that. I'm a little concerned that she might actually go down, but let's go for it.
I'd hoped we could solve this some other way.
Okay, now we're definitely using our leader ability on all these 6s. That is huge damage. And what we really want is for this fire to proc on this Rot Fiend, because then that would give us a lot more damage. Didn't there. Going after Gascon, which technically does mean that it's reducing the effectiveness of Isbel. It's also a decent option, although it is powering up Isbel, their order ability. Okay, so this row is now full. So... does complicate matters a little bit. Presumably, with all these 2-power units, the fire is going to at least take some stuff out on their melee row. But the problem is their range row is, well, their range row is kind of full. We could use Scepter of Storms, which has enough to get rid of 2 cards. We really want it to be either this Ghoul or this Hulking Necker. And I don't think we can control it. I think it is entirely random. So I mean, there's more 2-power units in their melee row, so unlikely it'll work. But either way, I think if we just create a little more space, I think it can work. I think it can still work. If we do this, yeah, of course they are both melee row, but what that does is that means now we can use the Slinger to move other range row cards into the melee row, and there is enough room for that to happen. So let's go use the Slinger now. And I think we want to have... Wasn't there... Yep, Rot Fiends. I think we want to have them all in the same row. And then something else to just take all the damage from those Rot Fiends, something that will be capable of taking a whole bunch of damage. Although we could use this Grave Hag, I am eyeing a really weak unit next to this Grave Hag as a potential Alchemist target. So I think we might go for this not quite as big one instead. And I think we wait for Isbel. I think we want to go save Isbel ideally until the turn in which we use Alchemist, and that way, if we are planning to use Alchemist on the Isbel plus Gascon combo, then we use this just before doing so, and that way... You guys count as bosses? I think that it'll still work. It's like, is the restraint going to be a factor? I don't think it will be. I think we'll be fine there. Okay, so I think we end here in that case. Fire could be a big factor. No Rotfiend kills. The damage is still starting to add up. Okay. Unfortunately, the little unit right next to this Grave Hag is no longer quite as little. So we're also in a bit of an awkward spot here with... If we aren't using Alchemist right now, then we're going to have to use Skull. And as anticipated, with only 1 footman in our graveyard, it's not particularly effective. So... Although... Skull in their range row would be just enough to get rid of this Grave Hag. Yes, it is marked. However, that mark deals damage after their turn, so it will have time to consume the top unit in their graveyard. So we can shut that down by using Skull now. So that's... Yes, that's worth doing. It's something. We banish you. Hit all you guys. Dramatic effect. And the reason why it wasn't worth doing in the melee row is because although it would drop the Rotfiend lower, it doesn't really make a difference. 2 damage means that, well, it's going to be within killing range of the fire anyway. Scepter of Storms, we would love if this could hit this Rotfiend, though. Right now, it would target this Ghoul. So, I think we leave it at this for now. Still no lucky fire procs on the Rotfiend. Or Rotfiend's there, though. They're just going after Gascon again. Technically, Isbel's up to 40 right now. Is that a Rotfiend? That was not a Rotfiend. No! Okay, so what can we do here? We can either use the Alchemist to reduce this Grave Hag by 22, which is pretty sweet. But before we do that, let's use Isbel and see how high up Gascon gets. It's looking like this, unless all of these happen to go on Gascon. Looks like setting Isbel's power to Gascon's power is probably not going to be as good as this combo here, but we'll see. So Gascon got up to a 10. Yeah, it's not sufficient. Not sufficient to warrant using Alchemist there. So unless you are secretly a boss and I didn't realize it, which I don't think you are, then I think this is the answer. Setting each power to the unit on its left. So yes, this should work. It should work, he says, knowing that he's messed this up many times before.
What is it?
Okay, it did work. Now, if we go Scepter of Storms, this is the big thing. We take you out, for sure. Then we're either taking you out, or you out. So there's a 2/3 chance that will, on the second time round, get rid of a Rot Fiend, and if it does, then we're going to get a chain reaction of Rot Fiend damage, which would be huge. If not, then we're relying on that fire to get the job done for us. So, let's see. There's 1 Rot Fiend. There's 2 Rot Fiend. There's 3 Rot Fiend. There's 4 Rot Fiend. That's the huge combo that we were looking for. Okay, so we pass here. They do have 1 more card, but we have over a 100-point lead right now. It's looking pretty good. It's just more Rot Fiends.
It worked, Your Grace. The monsters flee.
And so it worked. Took us a little while to come back here, but we made it happen.
The Nilfgaardians fought the monsters side by side, a united force. But when the last necrophage fell, the soldiers immediately returned to their respective divisions. Meve's soldiers looked at the invaders askance, uncertain what would happen next. Suddenly, one of the Nilfgaardians broke ranks and fell to his knees.
Oh? I mean, this image is telling.
Your Grace, I know you have no reason to trust us, but we are not enemies. We hail from Geso, a land Nilfgaard conquered and made its province. We did not ask to fight in this war by force. We were conscripted.
The soldier hefted his sword by the blade and handed it, hilt first, to the queen.
We yearned for a way to desert, and we have found it. Your Grace, allow us to join your army. We long for the Empire's defeat every bit as much as you do.
Oh, interesting, especially after having just recently done an encounter with a different kind of traitors, people who were supposed to be loyal to us, who were not. This time it's people who we expect to be disloyal or enemies to us, who suddenly want to join us. So, opposite side of the same coin. Oh, that is very cool that we just so happened to do those one right after the other. So let the soldiers join us, or refuse to let them join us. Obviously, on one hand, at least by name, by the color of their armor, they are our enemies, and so you could take that to mean that we just shouldn't trust them no matter what. Maybe they're spies, maybe they don't really care about our cause, and so they'll cause some kind of internal trouble, and maybe our units will not take so kindly to taking in what appear to be enemies. On the other hand, if we do have them join our forces and they behave, then of course that means we have additional forces, which is pretty nice. So, I mean, we were pretty unforgiving of the people who were supposed to be on our side who betrayed us. But maybe when it comes to our enemies, maybe we try to be more merciful? Let's go for
Meve
it.
helped the kneeling soldier to his feet.
The enemy of Nilfgaard is my friend.
True.
No matter who he is, or whence he hail.
The Lyrians were clearly displeased with their queen's decision.
Figure that might be the case.
The black-clad deserters from Geso would need to earn their trust.
So it's probably going to cost us morale. But we do gain the Geso footmen. This card has been added to our army and can be found in the command tent. Oh, and the Geso Arbalist. So, okay, it's more than one card. This has also been added to our deck. Okay, so let's loot up here. Yes, it does, as expected, drop us back down to low morale. Fortunately, we do still have some shrines, so we can repair that morale, at least to a certain extent, if needed. In fact, one of those shrines is right. Did we know that shrine was there? Hold on. I know we had 2. There's also loot here. Oh yeah, we did not have access to this little area until we just completed this, because this bridge was broken. That was one would-be entry point. This is the way we came in, both initially and on our most recent successful attempt. We tried to go in from this route last time, but of course we saw the bridge was broken. So this was not possible, and therefore this area was inaccessible until we completed this encounter. So yes, this is a third shrine, I believe, now available to us, because we have one way back here, we have the one right here, and we have the one over here. So that's significant, because this was one encounter that we theorized that we might have needed one of those shrines to complete, and yet we did it without a shrine. And so if we need to be on high morale for this encounter with Vrigith, then we can use Shrine here, get to neutral, get to high, and then awesome. Or we could continue to save them until we feel like it's absolutely necessary and see what we end up with these 2 points of interest here. Not sure. It might end up being really any combination of these next in our list. But before we do that, let's at least take a look at what we just picked up. I was not expecting any cards, really. I was expecting just our recruit number to go up. So that's a pleasant surprise. But what do they give us here? Is it exactly what we saw in that encounter? On round 1 start, appear on the battlefield. Whoa! So they don't even need to be in our hand. They just magically appear on the battlefield. That's pretty sweet. Order, move this unit to your deck, then summon a random unit from your deck, random allied row. Okay. So they automatically end up on the board, and then we swap them out with another card from our deck. Obviously, 3 points on the board. Not all that significant, but if we can swap them into something bigger, it is random. Okay, we don't get to pick. But that could be significant. Summon means that we don't get to use deploy abilities, which is potentially a pretty big downside because, for example, for something like the Stray's Bomber, if we happen to summon one of those, we don't get to set a row on fire. If we summon... I'm not even sure if we can summon an Infiltrator. It might be possible, in which case, that's definitely not going to... That might actually go back to our opponent's side in that case, and seriously backfire, so might need to make some adjustments to make room for that guy, or this guy. But, oh, and there's 2 of each of them. The other thing that came to mind was the Slingers, so it means we wouldn't get the movement and damage from them. But that's the Footmen. The Arbalist, on round start, appear in the battlefield, so similar. Loyal, so when we use a Lyria ability, damage a random enemy by 2, that's nice! It's basically a bargain version, and an automatically get on the board version of the Lyria and Arbalist, without the deploy ability, but with the Loyal ability. And it's just odd how these guys that were, at one point in time, considered potential traitors, have a Loyal ability. Just seems, kind of tongue-in-cheek there. They are expensive. At 10 recruit points apiece, we do have, likely, enough recruit cap remaining to make it happen. We had said that I think we were looking for a way to get rid of, where were they? Our Scythemen. And we do still have enough to make that exchange. Might get a little tricky if we try to work in the Footmen as well. These ones, as I said, are definitely a little bit riskier. Obvious things we'd like to get rid of? Still looking for more cards with charges. We really don't have them. The Alchemist would be another card that doesn't really work with the Footmen. So, I mean, the deploy abilities... We have a bunch of cards with deploy abilities. So, I mean, these might not be worth including. Right now, at least. It would take a little bit more of a rework for them to make a big difference. Because, on one hand, it's free points. Yes. But, it does also mean you're potentially swapping them out for a card with slightly more points, just depending on how big the body is. But, you know, sure, if we swap them into a Stray Slinger, we get 3 more points on the board, but we're missing out on the potential to get this deployability. If we have a multiple round match, we could have drawn into that Stray Slinger, it's no longer an option for us. Or if we have Rayla, then we no longer have one of our Stray Slingers to target with her, or maybe we're even resetting Rayla with Xavier or Reynard, and so we want to get all the Slingers we can possibly get out from our deck, or whatever else it might be, Strays Bombers, Cavalry, so on and so forth. So it's definitely possible to make it work, but there are just some instances in which, if we are truly trying to play every single deploy card from our deck, which is unlikely, but theoretically possible, then it could potentially break some things. So, for that reason, maybe we'll keep it out for the time being, but we should keep this in the back of our mind as a potential option for us. So this is one of the few cards that we have at this stage that you could make a point of really building a deck around it, or at least it does require that you have a deck that is built around abilities that take effect on the board rather than triggering on deploy. So we'll leave it at that. And with that, I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here. A few big encounters completed there, so very much pleased to see that we succeeded in that front. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.